Welcome to Connect to Develop, where we provide insight from healthcare leaders on the hottest topic and trends. Hello, listeners. Thank you for joining Marney and I for another exciting episode. Today, we will be talking about life hacks for the busy work traveler. I'm your co-host, Erika DeLeon. Super relevant and fun topic today, so excited to dive in. We both travel frequently, Marney, so I'm excited to explore new hacks, share experiences, maybe hear what our listeners have to say once this goes live. So quick kind of kickoff question, thinking through this topic, what is the one travel hack you cannot live without?
Oh, wow. I feel like apps would have to be the answer. And I know that's super broad based, but I have apps for everything. I have my hotel apps, whether or not it's my main hotel, any hotel that I would stay in. I have the app for that for easy check-in, check-out. I have the apps for all the major airlines that I would use based on where I'm flying into and who the hub is for and the time of day I need. I have grocery delivery apps. I have hot food delivery service apps. The clothing rental company that I use now, I changed over. I started with one and changed to a different one. Literally, apps organize my life for me and help me keep everything up and moving as I'm up and moving.
That's a really good one. For me, I would say TSA. I'm thinking through, the closest airport for me is about an hour. So I'm always paranoid about missing my flight.
Oh,
And
yeah,
so
especially with that traffic over there.
Yes, yes. So when I didn't have TSA, I remember just someone that traveled more often than I did at the time. And then I was just kind of getting into some more heavy travel. And they were like, you have to get TSA. It's going to change your life. And I remember the moment I did, just the ease that created kind of getting to the airport, making sure that I had a particular area where I was just used to parking, but then being able to go right through TSA. So that was a really, really big one that kind of changed the way that I traveled. I'm assuming, did you get TSA right from the beginning, Marnie?
Yes, and oh no, actually I didn't. And I can't believe that was not top of mind. I did not. So I did it all the wrong way, right? When I first started traveling, because I would on occasion be in 3 to 5 states in different seasonal times, all in the space of 3 to 5 weeks. So I checked luggage everywhere, which then I figured out how not to do that. I did not have TSA pre-check. So I was busy taking off my shoes and pulling everything out and, all of that kind of stuff. I became an unzipping, unpacking, repacking, rezipping queen at one point. But then I traveled with booties because I'm a high functioning germaphobe and I didn't want to walk across that floor in my own socks and then step back in. It was a process. I upgraded to global entry when I started traveling internationally. I think anyone who's going to be traveling internationally, whether it's for fun or work, and you travel a lot in general, you might as well upgrade. I think it's only $50 to $75 more. It lasts, X amount of years, and global entry applies over and acts as TSA in the United States.
I did not know that. That's actually a really good tip. Do you, kind of thinking through the unlayering and having to relayer experience, do you ever check a bag? What are the scenarios where you find yourself kind of forced to check a bag? And then how do you make that as light as possible? Because I know I really, really don't like to check a bag. I do everything possible not to check a bag.
I agree. Here's the irony. I can literally, in carry-on only, it's a full carry-on, I can travel 2 to 3 weeks in a row with carry-on only for business. If I'm driving 2 hours for a vacation for a weekend, 9 suitcases and hanging clothes come with me. It's insane. So
Talk through that, because that's fascinating.
Yeah, it's the funniest thing. My friends and I laugh all the time because most of my good friends are also business travelers, and we've all figured out. In fact, here's how I went from checking a bag to carry on. I got hired by the last full-time company that I was at, this incredible leader who she started off her career as a corporate consultant. So she was gone basically either Sunday night through Thursday night or Monday morning through, Friday morning or whatnot. And the first time we traveled together, we literally did about 3 weeks in a row. And I checked a bag because, hello, it was 3 weeks. I think I actually checked 2 bags. And she said, here's a life hack. go get a really nice Toomey, carry-on luggage because it's expensive and it will last forever and they'll fix it for you. And when you buy something expensive, you'll use it all the time. And she said, I am willing to wait for you to get luggage so that we can Uber together. However, on the next business trip, if you check a bag, I'm leaving and you're on your own after that. And I went, okay, all right. And I mean, she had it dialed in. So I would say, the clothing service saves my life with that. I'm not someone that packs the basics. I know a lot of professionals that they just pack the basics. It's the standard colors. Maybe they do one pop of color blazer and they rotate, through that every now and then. I am not. I like bright colors. I like business dresses. And so when I was traveling a ton and I was dropping into multiple cities all in one trip, I would literally through this clothing rental service that dry cleans for you. They prepay for the shipping labels. You just have to get it to a UPS or a FedEx, drop off carrier. And so I would drop ship things in and out of hotels. And so that saved a lot on the outfits. Then because I'm not a high heels person as it is, just because my feet and my back and my legs hurt when I do that, I will wear the heaviest level of shoe that I need to. So if I'm going into an extremely cold place where there may be some black ice or whatever, I'll wear those heavy, boots that I can also wear, into business meetings or something. And then I pretty much pack flip-flops in case the hotel doesn't have slippers, because, getting back to that high functioning germaphobe thing. And then I pack 1 to 2 pairs of cute workout shoes that I could also wear with my business dresses. And then I do laundry. If I need to do gym clothes laundry, partway through, then I do laundry. And most organizations are kind enough to expense it if you're traveling a ton. How about you? How do you get away with fitness, with all the different, locales, all the different types of functions you're going to and the different clothing requirements for that?
Yeah, so I am still learning how to get better. That's why I was looking forward to us kind of talking through this because I know, there's probably so much that between what we share and our listeners, I'm going to be able to kind of include in my toolbox. But for now, what I try to do, similar to you, is I always tend to wear my heaviest shoes or sneakers that I want to bring with me, try to kind of carry as much light on my carry-on and then heavy in hand, as much as that sounds uncomfortable. So for example, I'll have like my coat or my jacket in my hand as opposed to trying to pack it into the luggage so that I can make more room or have like my boots, comfortable boots or sneakers on. So again, to alleviate space in the carry-on. I use packing cubes. That helps me organize and try to compress as much as possible within the space because going back to I refuse to check a bag. It's just, I have this fear, Marnie, that I'm going to connect a flight. I'm going to be gone for several days and my luggage is never going to make it.
Oh, that's
Um,
happened. Oh, that's happened before. I've touched down, my luggage didn't make it. I wore the same clothes that I've been traveling with all day to the next flight the next morning. It was horrific.
oh my goodness. The other thing that I do too is I try to, if at all possible, I try to like pack an extra shirt or something that's in the backpack, not just in my carry-on, just like a quick, easy access sort of swap, because I had this episode where I was traveling and, it was a tight travel. I was going right from the airport right to the meeting, and there was a spill on the plane. Someone spilled their drink on me. And so I'm coming off in my business clothes. I'm like filled with someone's coffee. Uh,
Oh, I bet you smelled good
and
though.
well, and it's funny with the lesson learned because I, at that point, had checked a bag. And probably why I am so like, I'm never, don't like to check a bag, but I was in a bind. I was literally kind of scrambling. It was not a good situation. So, definitely some lessons learned. One of the areas that I'm curious to kind of get your thoughts is, productivity. Of course, when we're traveling, whether it's to a conference or meeting or whatever the purpose, work continues, responsibilities continue. And so how do you remain productive when Wi-Fi is not, reliable or
Oh, yeah, on the plane. So I will purposefully try to keep a few projects, whether it's work on a slide deck, work on an outline, review bullet points, draft things. And so on the occasion that either the flight's too short for Wi-Fi or the plane is too old and doesn't get Wi-Fi, I always have teed up a couple of projects that I need to sit down and work on.
I similarly will arrange tasks around not needing Wi-Fi. So I'm almost preparing for Wi-Fi to go down. So anything that I can download to my desktop, even the week prior, and kind of anticipating, okay, I know I've got flight time. Like, what are the things that I can push to that time? Even with layovers, leveraging the lounges and trying to set up the appropriate meetings. I know sometimes the background noise, but even having the headphones that block out the noise is key to just a key thing to have. But I try to even leverage layover time. I don't know do you do a lot of meetings with
Uh,
your layovers? And then,
I will do ad hoc calls to people where we need to catch up on something or unpack an item that was sent over on email. And I always preface it, this is a travel day. Can I touch base with you when I land and I'm deboarding and racing to my next gate? Here's the window I expect, and I send it over to hold on their calendar. But I always let people know ahead of time, hey, I will try to keep you updated. If for some reason there's a delay, I will not be on camera for this. I will do catch up calls between layovers. Absolutely. But I will not schedule a meeting where I need to sit down, where I need to take notes, and where I need to be really, really dialing in. I want to get back to something too. And I want to preface this is anecdotal to my experience, but I traveled 7 years straight nonstop, 25 to 31 days every single month for 7 years. So I
wow.
feel like I have it pretty dialed in. And let me preface it, my two carriers at that time were Delta and American Airlines. So I can't speak to the Spirits, to the Southwest, or the Alaskan. So here's what I also found. On those weeks where you are traveling incessantly, maybe you finish up a business meeting, you jump on a flight, you're trying to get in for, a dinner meeting and you're jumping around. Here's what I found out. If you touch down in an airport and it's relatively late at night and either pilots are late or the crew is late or for weather conditions or mechanical error, you find yourself standing at that gate in the terminal and they haven't let you board, right? Because that's the saving grace. You haven't board. That's another reason not to do carry on. If you jump on a plane, you've checked a bag, there is a mechanical error, you pull up some apps and you find another flight that can leave sooner than you're pretty sure that mechanical error will get fixed. If you've checked a bag, you can't leave that flight. If you're carry on, there's a chance that you can walk off that flight, they'll uncheck you, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's kind of a hack, especially if you need to get into that place for a critical dinner or business meeting later on. Getting back to the original topic, sorry, because that was a jump around, is if you find yourself at about 9 or 9:30 waiting for a gate and you still don't have crew on the ground and walking to you, or a pilot on the ground and walking to you, or there's a mechanical error, there is a strong chance that by the time that you are fully boarded, loaded on, and this actually happened to me, the pilot times out. Then they have to try to scramble, and around 10 or 10:30 p.m., they have to try to find a pilot. This day and era where there's less people flying and there's less crew and staff ability, the chances of you finding that pilot within a reasonable hour or even being able to take off that night is very minimal. And by the time you finally realize that you're stuck there and you now need to find a hotel within a reasonable parameter, because maybe you just got booked on the 6:30 a.m. flight out the next morning, and so you don't want to have to stay an hour away at a hotel, is pretty minimal too, because most likely it's weather or whatnot, and other people have booked up those hotels. So what I did, and I had the grace of a great company who was willing to, prioritize my emotional well-being than one night in a hotel, is if I landed and we were still standing at that gate and there was some reason why we weren't boarding on time and it was past the hour of 9 or 9:30, I immediately started dialing in. I started walking towards, with my carry-on, I started walking towards the exit. I pulled up my Marriott app, and because I'm a Marriott Bonvoy person, I looked for the closest hotel at a reasonable price near me. I booked that hotel. I then got on the customer service, because hopefully you have status or whatnot, so you get quicker customer service. Nowadays there's great chat options for the major airlines, and I immediately booked myself for the first flight out the next morning, because I knew that I was going to be a much more productive person for my company if I could get a decent night's sleep, fly out first thing in the morning, and hopefully I wasn't missing a serious. Actually, no, because it's 9:30 p.m. You've already missed, whatever it is. So that's also my anecdotal life hack for the busy work traveler to save your sanity.
I love that because you're touching on the fact that, from an organization standpoint, they cared about your well-being, right? So you felt comfortable being able to move forward with whatever the next step was so that you could show up fully productive and ready to kind of dial in. So, what I'm hearing is having that conversation ahead of time and kind of knowing the expectations around travel with your employer is really key. Like knowing, if you do run into a situation like that, like what's available, what are the options? Because when you're traveling that often, I mean, that's insane, Marnie. That's an extensive amount of time, right? And you're away from home, you're away from your friends, family, you know, that knowing that you're doing that and you're being taken care of in the process is really, really important.
Yeah, that
And
comes down to a lot of the culture of your company,
Mhm.
and whether a busy traveler lifestyle is tenable. I know companies where they nickel and dime you on how expensive it is. They require that you just completely go through Concur, which if you go through Concur and you need to make any kind of changes, you have to go through the Concur agency, which good luck getting them on the phone at 11 p.m. when you need to book something, for 6 a.m. the next day, etc. So I think if you're going to be a busy traveler, that's one of the things, you need to ask on the onset is, I need to know that my emotional wellness comes above Concur or, saving $200 a night. That brings up another point is depending on obviously where you're flying from, where you're flying to, and then the weather, because I do believe that weather, depending on the time of year and the locale of the place you're flying into, is very dependent. I used to specifically pick my layover airports to be in airports where I knew that there was a hotel that you simply exited. The hotel was part of the airport itself, but you had to re-go through security to get it. But man, do you save a lot of time checking into that hotel and then getting there for a 6 a.m. flight the next day.
That's a good tip. One area that I'm still trying to find a really good routine around is remaining healthy, like keeping your workout routines when you're traveling that way. I find
Hmm.
that to be really difficult. And I know, we've traveled together and I know that's something that you prioritize and you've kind of figured out. How do you make sure you're including that
Hmm.
in your travel, you're remaining healthy and kind of keeping up with your own well-being?
And this is once again just my personal standpoint, I don't know how people can travel a ton and not prioritize fitness. And I think it comes down to managing expectations on the onset. So every time I've gone for any kind of interview, whether it was full time employment or consulting, I was very clear. I said, I don't mind working 50 to 80 hours a week on the regular if I'm loving what I'm doing, as long as people understand that 90 minutes every day is going to be me time for the gym. I actually feel like a lot of employers respect that because if you're not taking care of yourself, you're going to burn out, you're going to have health issues. I think I was doing 14 or so, I was doing 16 hours. So there'd be days where I wouldn't eat until 3 p.m. in the time zone that I was at because I had eaten, at X time, the night before. And so intermittent fasting also saved me. Packing healthy snacks, so raw, cashews, things like that, chomps, which are, it's a great brand of organic, beef jerky type of thing, nitrate free, et cetera, et cetera. But finding those healthy snacks, protein powders. TSA used to pull me aside every time for my protein powder. I think they're much more used to the healthier traveler these days, but little things like that. Even doing sometimes where if I knew that I was going on a crazy run, I would claim a cleanse, which I really was doing, and I wouldn't drink for the first week to 2 weeks of a 3 to 5 leg trip. So you just have to have self-control and you've got to establish the boundaries. How about you? How are you doing that? Because I know you love your yoga.
Yes. Yeah, so a couple of things. I try to see because I go to an actual studio. I do yoga in my house sometimes from time to time, but I go through the whole hot vinyasa studio experience, which is a key part of my workout routine. That's hard to incorporate when you're traveling.
I love hot vinyasa flow.
Oh, it's so fun. And I feel amazing after. So it's why it's so important for me to keep it in my weekly routine. And so, what I've tried to do most recently is look for locations that might be by the hotel that I'm staying where I could take a 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock yoga class.
Do you use ClassPass or what do you use for that? Are you using workout apps where you can look up the studios in the general area?
I just Google, like, I'll just Google whatever, yoga studios near whatever
Have you
hotel.
tried ClassPass? Or I
I
bet
have
there's even a
not.
specific. So this is what I would do. I would look up yoga studio apps where you pay a membership. So you pay in for credits. So either there's a monthly membership or you can maybe buy a bulk of credits or whatnot. And they contract out with yoga studios, in major demographic areas. That way you could literally just pull up an app, book classes through that app. ClassPass was great back when I was moving to different states, for work or whatnot, because it was all different types of gyms, Orange Theory, yoga studios, etc. But I would look up and see if there's a yoga app.
Oh, that's really cool. I didn't even know of Class Pass. So that's see one other hack added to my toolkit. But yes, so I try to look around what's nearby. I do kind of have a couple of routines that if I need to do it in the hotel and I can't find something that's local, I just do it in the hotel room. So I have like a little travel mat that I try to squeeze into my luggage. It's
Do you just
foldable.
pump up the thermometer to, 98 or something when you're doing that and then
You're,
turn it off when
you
you're
say
done?
that, but I do. It's kind
No,
of funny.
that's
Even
awesome.
when
That's
I'm
a great hack.
just because I'm trying as best as possible to keep what I know makes me feel really, really energized. Because to your point, showing up and pulling those 10, 12, 14-hour days, we do that when we're traveling. And so it's just really important to find what works. And that's why I'm trying a couple of different things. There was this one time I remember traveling and I was surprised to find out that the hotel that we were at actually had yoga classes. So I look at that now, like, does the hotel even offer that? It just depends on geographically where you're going. Sometimes that's more part of what is, normal exercise regimen. And so they include it in the gyms that they have, which has been really cool. Haven't come across too many of those, but yeah, I mean, there's just so much to kind of think through. I guess, I know we're about to wrap up, Marnie, but I guess what is one thing that you are looking to maybe incorporate that you haven't tried?
I gotta say, if I didn't love French fries, pizza, and Chinese food, I could be so much skinnier. But I would love to be able to dial back the calories that I expend on business trips and save those for because you get home and your family hasn't seen you for a little bit, your friends haven't seen you, everyone wants to get together, and typically social stuff revolves around meals, getting together for a brunch or a dinner or things like that. And you don't want to go out there and say, sorry, I'm on a cleanse, so I can't have any wine and I have to have, this iceberg lettuce and, the bone broth soup for dinner. And so I would love to be able, and this goes back to self-control, minimize some of the delicious decadent things that I'm being offered at these work meals so that I can splurge when I come home and I have that time with friends and family. How about you?
For me, I have not tried any of the like the rent the runway or those services, those types of services. And I know you use those, you talked about them kind of earlier on in our discussion. I haven't tried any of those. So I'm going to give that a try because it sounds like creates a whole ton of ease and I hate packing. So I'm going to try that. That's something I want to incorporate. Of course, I already mentioned I'm trying to incorporate more working out and the diet. I think that's like keeping your routines is definitely a given, but something I haven't tried at all is, rent the runway. I think you mentioned it was
I
Amour.
use Amoir now. It's
Amour.
French,
Okay.
Amoire. I find that their clothes, for me personally, are more my style and they're a little bit more high end. I used Rent the Runway for the first several years, and then a friend of mine had the same exact issues that I was having. So she switched over and got her trial and then said it was great. So I switched over. The key to that is I don't know about Rent the Runway anymore. What I found very stifling was Rent the Runway. If you had an unlimited plan, you had to wait until your clothes arrived and got checked in before you could order your new batch. What I love about Armoire is that let's say that you have 3 different locations that you're going on and they're several days long. They're conferences into a company, meeting that's several days long, etc. And so you need several outfits for each location. And let's say that they're maybe even in different locales, right? I mean, if in January you go to Southeast Florida, then you go to New York City, then you go to San Diego, you're talking about different styles, you're talking about different, weather patterns, etc. So I suggest basically loading your cart, drop shipping things into one. As soon as those arrive, drop shipping something into the next one. Because the nice thing is you can pay for overnight. Otherwise, it takes 2 to 3 business days. And so you want to do it on the tarmac because the idea is to maximize your time, right? So waiting in line to board the plane, and sitting on the tarmac waiting for takeoff once, they give you the stink eye when you have your laptop up and running, is when I do my grocery order, my food delivery service order, when I do the Armoire drop shipments and everything. And then you want to immediately message the hotel that you're coming into, please look for this package coming in by this delivery service. It's attention, Erika DeLeon guest. And especially if you have status at these hotels, they will prioritize that. Please have the front desk waiting for me with this package at check-in. So there's a lot of logistics that you're running. But once again, that's why I live and die by my apps.
Love it. Love it. So many great pearls. I'm definitely going to incorporate some of the things that we've talked about. I'm curious to know what our listeners are going to add to the conversation once this goes live, because again, I think there's so much to learn and either tweak or evolve in our own, day-to-day packing as we prepare for travel. But this has been fun, Marney. Again, another great episode that we're unpacking together. I look forward to just, again, seeing the feedback and continuing to add to our toolbox.
Absolutely. Well, I can't wait to hear from the listeners too. In fact, I'd love to learn from them what are some of the life hacks that they apply when they're traveling. You can find more interviews on our YouTube channel at Marney Reid Presents.